Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Beril Bayrak Bulucu. It is an honor and a great pleasure to be with all of you today. I'm a pediatrician from the greater Boston area. I've been practicing pediatrics for more than 20 years. I also specialize in parent-infant mental health. I am also an MBO trainer through Brazelton Institute. I would like to I would like to express how grateful I am and all of us are for the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority for this wonderful initiative. I would also like to thank you, everyone, for making this possible. And I would love to thank all of you for listening in advance. I think it's wonderful to think about babies all together with you. And I'm hoping you will enjoy the presentation. And I'm going to be asking all of you some questions, some points to think about. So at the end of the lecture, it would be my pleasure to answer your questions. Or if you have anything to tell me about those questions, about those points that we've discussed all together. Thank you. So I will start with my first slide. Today I will be talking about your baby's growth from conception to birth. This is an incredible journey from a few cells to a grown baby, to a human being. So I'm hoping you will embark this journey with me, journey of excitement and wonder, where we discover different aspects of the baby and in his life, in his early life in the uterus. What I would like to talk about are really different aspects of the baby's life and different stories, if you will, that all come together. First is the physical growth of the baby in the womb. Second, developing capacities of the baby, including senses and early brain development, and what this means for the parents, for the baby, for their connection. I will talk about the growth of the baby in the parent's mind, because as the baby is growing in the womb, a lot is happening in the parent's mind as well. And it all affects each other. The baby also seems to grow in the parent's mind, and the parents grow as parents. So we will be talking about that as well. We will also be talking about the early moments of meeting, where parents meet their baby even before they were born. We will also be talking a little bit about the contribution of the larger family and the community, and how it all comes together, how all of these aspects of the baby's life, all of these stories help us to show us how to welcome the baby for the unique being that he or she is. We'll be talking about the most exciting, maybe the most exciting, one of the most exciting periods of human life. It is definitely the most rapid growth and change in human life. And during this presentation, I will be referring to the baby as baby, little one, or fetus. It's all the same person. I might also be referring to the baby as he, she, it. It's always the same person, hopefully, which you think of as your unique baby. And And throughout this presentation, I would like to give you some information, but more importantly, I would like to make you more curious about babies. I would like you to be more curious about ways to connect with your baby early on. So I will also be asking about a lot of questions, and I'm hoping that we will be wondering these together. Um, when we're talking about pregnancy, we usually divide it into 3 different trimesters. Um, and there's an incredible growth throughout, but every trimester has different features. And pregnancy is such a dynamic period that really every week, every month has a different characteristic that just our little one keeps growing so fast. So we will be exploring that together. So trimester 1. So this is how it all begins. The story of our baby. And in the beginning, it starts with a few cells which settle down in the fallopian tube, and they start dividing, and then they later on move to the uterus, to the womb. They already have the genetic makeup of the new person. And in this period, a very exciting growth happens, a very rapid growth happens. So basically all the organ systems develop. Um, the heart and the circulatory system develop, and they actually are functional. So the heart will start beating during this period and pumping blood to the baby's body. And many other organ systems develop as well. Nervous system starts developing from a few tubes to a whole organ system, which includes the brain, the spinal cord, um, the nerves. There will be changes later on. There will be more connections later on, but the infrastructure is already complete. We will be talking about brain development more in detail later on in this talk. At the end of this period, our baby is 3 inches long. And I put a picture of an ultrasound because this is a very important moment of meeting with the baby. The parents might already be thinking about their baby. The parents might already have ideas about their baby. And definitely there are changes in mom's body um, from the beginning. She might be feeling nauseated, she might be feeling tired, she might be going through a lot of changes, but still, the baby, they cannot have a very physical way to connect with the baby yet. They cannot feel the movements of the baby. So ultrasound is really a wonderful way for the parents to meet their baby for the first time this way, because they can hear the heart rate, they can see the baby moving. So it's a very festive first time meeting. And I'm wondering how you all experience this and what you think about this. I find it is a very important milestone for many families to see their baby. And at this point, as we spoke, most of the organ systems are already developed. So we go from every trimester is made up of 3 months approximately. So the second trimester is the second 3 months from 13 weeks to 27 weeks. And as we said, most all the organs are already formed at this point. But during this trimester, they start to be functional. They start to work. For instance, the digestive system starts to work. So our little one starts swallowing the fluid around her. And also urinary system starts to function. So she also urinates. She also pees into the fluid around her. And there's also a lot of other things happening. The organ systems are definitely maturing. The muscles are getting stronger. So he is able to kick, suck, move hands, and the parents at this point can feel the movement. So also, we will talk in more detail about this, but the senses of the baby also starts developing at this time. They can really hear the parents well. During this period, the growth is from 3 inches to 9 inches. And when we think about the moments of meeting, this is the first time during this trimester. It is the first time the parents meet their baby, and also family meets their baby with the movements. So the first kick for the brother, first kick for the dad, and it's usually an amazing way for the little one to let us know that she's there and to have that meeting, to have that connection. And again, I wonder if you all have experiences about this moment of meeting and what it makes you think. um, as we continue, we arrive the third trimester. And at this time, third trimester is really from 27 weeks till the baby is born. So at this point, all the organ systems and body parts are already present, all everything, the baby really looks like a baby. But there is a lot of maturation that needs to take place, especially lungs mature at this point. If the baby is born a little bit early, the lungs will not be in a mature state. So there is a lot of lung maturation that takes place during this period. Also, again, we will talk a lot more later on, but the nervous system is really developing very fast with a lot of connections, earlier regulation skills, hearing, touching, learning. So already making connections. The baby has a limited vision, um, but at this point, so there's a lot of the second trimester was a time where it was really relatively comfortable for mom. But during this trimester, the third trimester, things are a little bit harder. Usually, the she feels a lot of pressure in her body, and the movements are felt readily, and also sleeps are disrupted, and it really gets close. So the baby becomes a lot more real. And during this time, a lot of parents really actively imagine about their baby, what her mind must be like. And I wanted to imagine with you in this picture, wondering if she would see a starry night from in there, or something that looks like outer space. So wondering, imagining the baby's mind together. Um, so this is a very interesting area, brain development of the baby in the womb. So we're learning a lot in the last decades about how this happens and the capacities of the baby. So it is a good idea to think about the baby's brain development as the formation of a building. So as if a building is being made, and the foundations of the building are really complete very early on in the first trimester. You have a lot of the connection, a lot of the foundations, the brain, the spinal cord. You also have nerves that are forming. In the second trimester, again, there are many other active changes on this foundation that is already there. So the nerves move to their final place, connections start already forming. And in the last trimester, there are the connections, which we call synapses, are forming very actively. They are like the branches of a tree. And these connections will be forming throughout lifetime. And this is how experiences are made. And we will talk about this later too, but already in the womb, the baby is forming experiences and forming memories. With the first movement, they start to make a map of their own body. So when they are born, they are already aware of their body to some extent. They also register many of the movements, sounds they hear, and visions, and they are forming early experiences. And these happen usually the lower areas of the brain organize first, and these are the areas that help the early regulation skills like calming. And also, it is important to note that because of this rapid change and because of this possibility to make connections and experiences, baby can also be affected from what's going on in the womb environment, from some medications, from substances, and also from mother's stress or the stress around. And we knew this before as well, that if the mother is stressed, the baby might feel it too. But now there is a lot of research that shows us that the enzymes protect the baby from passage of certain hormones are lower when mom is stressed. And this is important to think of, especially in this time of COVID. But there is also um, there is also ways that the baby already starts to um, starts to also regulate themselves. And it is very important. Many countries have traditions of taking care of pregnant mothers. And I don't know how it is in Abu Dhabi, if you have any traditions of taking care of pregnant mothers, but I can't emphasize how important it is, because if we're able to calm the mother, like if we calm her heart rate, and if she's in a calm state, that really also helps the early regulation skills of the baby, when those stress systems are being formed. If the baby is in a calm environment, that really helps her. And also what helps her is the connections already. There's always healthy connections are always the best buffer for stress, and we will be talking about this many times during this talk. From here, we go to the senses of the baby. So as we spoke, it's incredible to think of this, but the baby's senses start so early. The sense of touch is usually the earliest to start, which is around 8 weeks. So initially, the baby has some receptors. There are little sensors, if you will, on the face, nose, lips, and can feel the environment, can sense the environment. Then has sensors all around her body, and is mapping the movements. The movements help her map her own body. And at around 31 weeks, the baby can feel the sensation of a feather. Um, so this is as sharp as the senses go. Um, and one thing that's very, very interesting is the fetus can already respond to the touch of the parents. So when someone touches the womb from the outside, um, see that the fetus can touch, can reciprocate that touch from the inside. And the researchers have also shown that um, when the parents are touching the womb from the outside and the fetus touches them from the inside, they measure the heart rate, um, and they see that the heart rate typically goes down, which might be a sign of the parents already being able to calm the baby. So these cool images are from what we call 4D ultrasound, which really shows a lifelike picture of the fetus in the third trimester. And I have some other cool images here, which is showing in a 4D ultrasound. It is showing what happens when the baby and the parents touch each other from inside and outside. Um, so um, from here, we go to the second sense that is developing, and that is hearing, which is also very, very exciting. So hearing typically starts around 18 months of age, but we've 18 weeks of age in utero, but we believe that this time hearing is really a little bit muffled. They cannot hear very clearly, but there is evidence suggesting between 20 and 24 weeks, they can easily hear human voice. They can easily hear their parents and others. Again, research shows that when they hear the mother's voice, the heart rate actually slows down again, which might be a finding that suggests that um, the mother is already able to calm the baby. And at this time, they are already able to differentiate um, their um, their mother tongue from their language, from the other languages, and which is really one of the ways they're already exposed to their own culture, so they can already differentiate their language from other languages. They are receptive to music, to melodies, not all music, but at least some music. Which is a little bit more catchy, really is remembered, like is remembered even when they come, when they're born. And I have had a couple of experiences like that. I had these parents who had sang a folk song to their baby, like repeatedly throughout the pregnancy. And when the baby around 1 month of age, when babies can be a little fussy, they were singing that song, and that seemed to calm the baby each time. And I'm wondering if you have songs like that in Abu Dhabi, or if you would consider trying this or singing to the baby in a regular fashion. Um, really seems to be a wonderful way to connect with the baby, even before they're born. Um, so vision, vision is the next sense. So we used to believe that babies could not see that well, like this little one. But that wasn't true. Now studies have shown that babies can see, even though they don't have a fully developed vision till after birth. So they can detect light in the second trimester, and they already have in the third trimester, they already have preferences. They prefer face, human face. They seem to prefer representations, light representations of human face to other visual representations they see. And at birth, Again, the vision is not perfect, but they will be able to see between 8 and 15 inches, which is usually enough to see the parents when they're holding the baby. Um, so I love this part. So I'm from Turkey, and this reminds me of the spice market we have in Grand Bazaar, in Egyptian Bazaar. And when you go through, your senses really get this amazing, treat. And obviously, I love the cuisine, and which is really um, some of all the flavors and spices, and I'm guessing there must be a hallmark of Abu Dhabi cuisine in Abu Dhabi as well. So, and most importantly, the culinary tastes and flavors can also be passed to the baby before they're born. They already can be exposed to their culture this way, even before their birth. So, because smell sensors start around 8 weeks of age in utero, and they are functional by 24 weeks. And we know that smell and taste are very related, and the taste cells start around 8 weeks, and they are functional by 17 weeks. And really, and what's going on is when mom eats certain food, especially with ones that have an after smell, after taste, like garlic, the fetus will be exposed to these flavors from the fluid around her. That's called the amniotic fluid, because as we talked, in the second trimester, the digestive system is working, so they're able to swallow the fluid around them. And as they're swallowing the fluid, they're also smelling and tasting it. So they're already exposed. They have a taste of what the mom is eating and what kind of food are eaten more commonly in their culture. The same thing happens with breast milk too. Babies can sense the tastes and smells of the food that mom is eating more frequently. So this is such a wonderful way to connect with the baby through food, which they will hopefully remember later on. So just to recap of what has been going on with our little ones so far. So we talked about the first trimester, when the organs are developing from a cell. They go to a small baby with all the organs developed, and which is also a critical stage in that um, sense. The second trimester, when the organs started to be functional, when they were already the senses are developing, memories start to develop, right? And the third trimester, when everything is maturing, the first connections, brain connections are developing, earlier regulatory skills are developing. And we have already talked about the moments of meeting, right? We've already talked about parents might be thinking of their baby already, but they also hopefully will have met through the first ultrasound, and they're feeling the moments already. Perhaps they're singing to their baby, and so this is all that's happening. But also, and we know that there's a lot of physiological changes that happen in the mom's body, right? There's just a whole lot happening in the mom's body. We know that that also has some changes, has some hormones. Um, but as this is happening, what happens in the parents' minds is also fascinating. Number one, there is a shift of their identity. So from who they are, who they were as me, as someone, they are switching to being a parent of somebody. So this is really a new identity that they're earning, but they're also kind of losing their previous identity, which is really also an important thing to consider. And parents have hopes and dreams. They have a lot of hopes and dreams throughout this period, typically, right? They also have fears. Many parents worry about things. Some typical worries are, uh, is my baby okay? Am I going to be a good parent? As this is all going on, they start imagining their baby, right? And they also have reflections of their own childhood and their own earlier experiences. They show up. A lot of times when a new baby is born, a lot of parents really remember their early childhood experiences, how it was like for them and their own parenting. Sometimes they remember it consciously and sometimes they remember it unconsciously. It just shows up. And so, with that in mind, um, how will the parents make room for their baby, for the baby who's coming? How will they be emotionally available for the baby? Um, so these questions are the answers are very different from person to person. And I would love you to be considering these questions. And so, and we don't know the answer. And I think it's very important not to know the answer because one thing that we want to cultivate is curiosity. And curiosity is a very important way that helps, it's the thing that helps parents really open up space for their own baby, being curious about their own experience, being curious about who the baby is. And one part of this is things that are common to all babies, but being curious about things that are unique to their own baby. Because curiosity and as well as compassion does help parents to be connecting to their baby, because attachment and bonding really starts in the womb, very early. And but being able to be curious really opens up that wonderful space for the little one. And because as wonderful and as joyful it is also difficult to be a parent. And there's a lot going on. It's very complex, a lot complex set of experiences that are unfolding, both in the baby's mind, both in the baby's body, parent's body, and also parent's mind. And they all affect each other. They all connect. And from here, we come to the community. We're talking about how parents can make space for their baby. And one of the most important elements is the greater community and the larger family. And so the larger family story is carried in the genes. Now we know that even experiences of previous generations, the baby might be carrying in their genes. Also, we talked about how cultural preferences are already transmitted to the baby in terms of mother tongue, in terms of the language, in terms of songs you're singing to your baby, and also flavors of the food you're eating. That's also another way of connecting with your baby. So the also so the larger family community is very important to support the parents and the newborn baby, because what happens is as the parents identity is shifting, and they're going through a lot of really very complex experiences, their need for supportive figures increases. For older moms, for older dads, there's an increase for supportive figures. And again, one importance of the community, like this is a very joyous period, but also there is some stress, and healthy connections are very important to buffer stress throughout this period. You know, healthy human connections are the most important buffer. So, how will the large family and community welcome the baby? As professionals, how can we support the parents' bond with their baby? And I am wondering how Abu Dhabi traditions are, how babies are welcome, how new parents are supported. I am very curious because we also learn a lot from many cultures in the world in the best ways of supporting, because there are so many creative ways of supporting the pregnant families, and also after the baby arrives, of course. So here, from here, we come to COVID. Unfortunately, this is a monster that we're having to deal with as a world community. So COVID is causing a lot of stress for everybody, but we also know that COVID causes a lot of stress for the moms, right? For the family, and we know, as we spoke, the prenatal stress can affect the baby unless it's buffered. So it's very important to consider that. Some factors that really are contributing to this stress are isolation, because we talked about how important community experiences to really support this whole process, but diminished support during pregnancy and birth. So there is a lot of ways COVID is affecting the families early on. So how do we again make space for the baby, as parents, as professionals, as the greater community? So one of the most important things is, we talked about how important curiosity is really for the baby's development, for the parents to be curious about their own emotions, about their baby, and for them to be curious. It is very important for them to be able to express their worries. So the kind of help that really is helpful is when they're able to express their concerns. They don't feel judged. They don't feel like a bad parent. And so helping parents that way, they can feel safe. Helping parents to feel safe and connected through the pregnancy is very important, so they can attune to the baby as well as their own emotions. So it really, really takes a village. So with all this happening, with our baby developing in the womb so bravely, and all the capacities developing, already connecting with the parents really thinking about the baby, dreaming, worrying, creating space. Hopefully, the larger community and professionals being there to support them when they need. With all that, we come to this wonderful moment. Hello, world. So here's our little one after birth, and welcomes the world, and then we welcome her. And from this point on, there are even more transitions when the baby is born, from a very protected environment, that everything is really ready for her. The food is ready. Doesn't need to breathe, doesn't need to um, really do much from that environment. She comes to the cold of the real world and goes through a lot of transitions in the first few weeks. The lungs, which were really full with fluid, start to empty and start to allow air to get in. The circulation changes. The heart is pumping. There are little holes in the heart which will close at this period. So there's a lot of transitions, and every baby goes through these transitions in a different way. Some babies, it's very easy. Some babies, it's a bit harder. But they are born with many capacities to survive and thrive. And one of the most important of these capacities is their ability to connect with parents already. So during this time, babies go through different stages, different states. You will observe the baby in many different states. Some of them are sleep, some of them are awake, deep sleep, light sleep, drowsy sleep, being active alert, quiet alert, and then in a very crying, in a very active state where they're really very uncomfortable and crying. And all these states, they communicate with us in their own unique way. And once we learn about their unique signals, it just makes it so wonderful to learn and to parent them. So as we've spoken before, babies can already see and follow around 8 to 15 inches, and they prefer faces. They typically prefer parents' faces to anybody else. They hear well, but they prefer parents' voices to all the voices around, and they have many other preferences. So and from here, another wonderful journey starts where your baby will show you how to parent her, and you will learn together how to make the best future for her. So this is about it. Thank you everyone for listening. I am really very grateful for this opportunity. From here, I am wondering if anybody has questions about this lecture, and if I can answer your questions. I think there are a couple of questions already, which I am more than happy to answer. Yeah. Okay, so these are really, really wonderful questions. Thank you. Someone has asked about the role of folic acid. So folic acid is very important in the earlier trimesters for nervous system development. So we talked about brain development that's very rapid and that really completes very early. So folic acid supplementation has been found to decrease the possibility of problems like neural tube defects that can cause nervous system problems later on. So folic acid supplementation is very important about the brain development that we've talked about. I am a pediatrician, so I am during this later lecture, I try to talk about the baby's experience, but of course, there's a whole lot about the pregnancy experience from mom's side. And definitely supplementations are very important, and creating a good environment in the uterus, you know, which involves healthy nutrition, healthy, you know, lifestyle, and most importantly, lack of stress. But folic acid has definitely an important value there. So the second question is about the Tdap vaccine to the mother and flu vaccine to the mother. Again, I'm a pediatrician. But it is important for mom to get the Tdap vaccine and the flu vaccine, especially in this year when we're dealing with COVID, and we know that flu infection will make COVID infections a lot worse. So it is fundamentally important, I think, to vaccinate. This is another way to protect against vaccination, because we want to think about all this together. With preparation for parenthood, we want to really prepare a safe environment for the baby, physically and emotionally. So another question is about role of nutrition in teenage girls. How about making them prepare for parenting? This is also a wonderful question. You know, how during teenage years, if girls are, if they get a better nutrition, are they going to be, is their going to be, body going to be more prepared for parenthood later on? And I I think that is probably true, because when they have a good nutrition, it helps their immune system, it helps their body function in a lot better, and then it might also be helpful to prepare for pregnancy, which is really a big deal for the body. It is a lot of stress for the body. So the more healthier you are, the healthier immune system you have, the easier it will be for you. Thank you for all the questions. Let me see if there's any other questions. Okay. So what can parents do to connect with their baby? I think this is a wonderful question too. So I think it starts very early on. You know, it starts, and I think the connections are already happening in the belly. Compassion and curiosity are very important, two very important things. And the more parents are curious about the baby's experience, the better they will really see who he or she is, and also being curious about their own experience and how sometimes it might be difficult, how it may not be easy, and just to give them that compassionate space to be able to connect with their baby. The other thing that is very important is observation. The more they observe the baby, what the baby really gives us so many clues, and the more we can observe these clues, we really learn so much of what seems to be working, what doesn't seem to be working, and then how we grow together. The baby makes a meaning of the world in her own way, and the parent makes a meaning of the world in their own way, and that by sharing, by having experiences together, they just make a meaning together, which is very, very exciting. Thank you. So, yeah, question about twin parenting. What happens if you have twins? So twin parenting is really joyful, and it's also very difficult too. You know, the changes during pregnancy are a little bit more difficult for the mom, especially the weight gain and most of that. And twin babies are typically, they need to share a space, and they typically are a little bit smaller when they're born than singleton babies. But other than that, the experience is typically similar. Twin babies also get nurture from parents the same way. They also, one of the interesting things, they start to relate to each other already in the uterus, and this continues. This special bond continues also outside the uterus. So I really think it's just very, very exciting. Let me see if there's any other questions. Okay. So I think there's a question about dads. There will be another lecture which talks about the parents' dad's experience. But as I have mentioned before, dads also have a lot of changes in their body. There are some hormonal changes that we know happen in dad's body as well. So so dads also need a lot of attention. The bonding between the dad and the baby needs a lot more attention. Usually moms are mentioned more than dads, and I think there needs to be more research about that area as well. So what do we do? What can we do to help parents and babies connect? How can the professionals and how can the family help? Thank you. So I think with professionals, I think our role is most of all creating a safe space. And I think one of the most important things is really listening to parents and their worries, their story, to understand who they really are, and really partnering with parents as experts. If we are situating ourselves, positioning ourselves as the expert, sometimes it's harder for the parents to really feel their own authority, their own knowledge. But parents have so much knowledge already. They already know their baby. So as practitioners, it's very important for us to be partnering with them and to help them really to develop that confidence. And it's usually through observing the baby together, like being curious about the baby together. And family too. It's wonderful to have a larger family around. But again, if the family can support the parents to develop as parents, to hear their worries, help them really connect with the baby that way. The most important is relieving their stress, especially in the time of COVID. So a healthy connection when parents are listened to, don't feel judged, or don't, that really makes a big difference for them. Yeah, I probably another question. Yeah. Yeah, parents' age, does it make a difference? Mom's age, does it make a difference in the pregnancy? It makes a little difference in terms of health factors. Very early pregnancies are a little bit more, there's a little bit more risk, and very late pregnancies. So between pregnancies between 18 and 35 years of age, are a bit easier. But having said that, there's a lot of parents who decide to have babies later on, and with proper support, with proper nutrition and connections and everything, it's possible to have a healthy pregnancy experience. later on or early on as well. So I just want to kind of go through what we've talked about and before we close today. So there is just many components of the little one's growth in the womb. It is a fascinating process how the little one grows from a few cells to a newborn. It's just rapid, week to week, and the organs develop really early. There's a lot of capacities that already develop when the baby's in the belly, like the nervous system, like the senses. So the baby is already born with a capacity to make sense of experiences and some memories that are processed in the lower brain areas, which form early on, which start forming in the uterus in the later stages of pregnancy. So the baby is born with a lot of capacity, with a lot of memories and skills already. And in the meantime, there's a lot of other things that happen. Parents really prepare for the baby and in their way, and they process their previous experiences, they process their own childhood, their own memories, and the community hopefully prepares to welcome the baby. So I think it's really wonderful to keep all of this in mind and to find ways where new parents can be supported to take best care of their baby, both physically and emotionally. And one of the last things I would like to say is that the physical health of the baby is very connected to the emotional health already. And that's also very connected to the emotional health and the physical health of parents. And especially at this time of COVID, it's very important to keep an open mind and keep compassion for our new parents and babies. And I think this is about it. Thank you so much for joining my lecture. I'm more than happy. You can always send questions, and if we could not get to your questions today, we will be answering it. You will receive emails with the questions. So thank you so much for listening. Oh my goodness. Are you guys there?